Our day officially halfway over on day number 1 of the SMITE Pro League Kickoff Tournament. 2 best-of-3s done, 2 best-of-3s still to go, and they'll move to best-of-5s tomorrow and on Sunday as well. Cupcake already let you know, but allow me to reiterate right now until April 9th, gem sale going on in SMITE. So it's a perfect time to tune in and be watching, look at this new age of the SMITE Pro League. Also a perfect time to get in and get your gems in SMITE. Up to 33% off gems and up to 40% off select chests from now until April 9th. So you got a little time. Make sure you make full use of that time during our gem sale. Hey, Tier 5 Aphrodite skin, another great use of some of those gems. We'll move on and talk a bit more about what we've got going on here for the remainder of the day. As you can see behind me, defending world champs. They are officially now defending world champs for the remainder of Season 10, going up against the newcomers in the Gilded Gladiators.
An exciting match, right? Because the Camelot Kings so dominant in their Worlds run. We'll see whether or not that was just a meta that happened to suit them, or if they're going to be able to weather the storm of what is essentially what feels like 2 major season shifts, 10.1 to 10.3. So many god changes, so many itemization changes, a brand new map. I think the Camelot Kings likely will try and reprise their same style, and it could work out for them, but it seems like the teams that have succeeded so far today have been largely action-packed games, have been largely able to leverage the first 10 to 15 minutes. The Kings, for the most part, haven't been that style of team.
Miff, I'll call it a surprise. The Eldritch Hounds start off our day with a 2-0 over the Styx Ferrymen. At least in one of those games, felt like the Ferrymen really had things under control, but a good comeback from the Hounds, and then Oath kind of goes crazy towards the end of game 2. So the Hounds move on to play the Jade Dragons, who just beat the Leviathans 2-1. Tomorrow, that'll be a best of 5. And now we're going to work on the lower half of the bracket. Kings Gladiators followed up with Ravens Oni Warriors later on today. So we've got 2 more exciting best of 3s to finish off the day here today. Remember, this is all steamrolling our way towards finding our first seed, who will then send a team over to our second division, and we'll bounce back and forth from there, get our 2 divisions for Phase 1 of Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. Let's talk about Gladiators v. Kings, though, here, Miff, because it's almost literal opposite as far as teams and their recent achievements. You've got the world champion Camelot Kings going untouched, unscathed. We all heard the intro video, Miff. Going up against the last team to qualify into the SPL in general this year.
Both touched and scathed.
The Gilded Gladiators. But they made their way in. They took down the Wargs in what many would consider an upset. It was a reverse sweep. They went down 2-0, won 3 straight. And now they face-plant into the defending world champs in the first round of the kickoff tournament.
Yeah, difference in between play-ins and kickoff is the ADC. Stu now in for this team. Had a phenomenal performance throughout the play-in weekend, so no surprise that he's the pickup for this squad. I do wonder, though, how the Gilded Gladiators shift up their playstyle, because they had one characteristic, one strategy that they had run in every single one of their victories, and it was jam pressure in duo, then have solo and duo essentially just lane swap and then jam your pressure there. We've had a bit of time since then. Teams have either A, done their homework and have figured out how they want to beat that strategy, or B, completely forgotten about it. And the Gilded Gladiators may have forgotten about it as well. Regardless, this is a team that played through their jungle, played through their support. It was a roaming 3-man death ball towards the center of the map. And then just pressure, play through objectives, establish your gold lead, be it from Gold Furies or from taking towers. A lot of magical ADC play from the Gilded Gladiators as well. It's hard to say which version of this team we're going to get, but I think it is probably fair to state that they are potentially the heaviest underdog matchup we're going to get to watch throughout this entire event.
I guess literally, I think we consider the Kings the first seed and the Gladiators the 8th. So yeah, I think you're pretty spot on there, and I think there's a lot to look forward to with this Gilded Gladiators team. A quick snapshot would be that this is, sort of a couple pieces of the Scarabs team from last year. Remember that ended up separating, getting pulled apart, put on different teams, getting removed from the team in general, that have now found their way back together. And so there is some chemistry, some synergy amongst this squad. And I think that's what you're going to have to lean on early in the year, but then build on that, find an identity. Now you've got Kyrmi out of the jungle, and I think that's a decently sized switch for this team. Kyrmi played for the Valkyries last year, now for this Gilded Gladiators team. A mentally tough player, but also very sharp, very quick-witted. And so I expect big things from Kyrmi on this Gilded Gladiators team. Snoopy, of course, rounding out this team over in mid, who we hadn't talked much about yet. Snoopy's got a tough mid lane matchup because on the other side of the aisle, you've got the Camelot Kings, just won Season 9 of the SMITE World Championships. You might notice the hammer resting in the bottom corner of this camera shot. Of course,
they
all
walk
smiles.
Around with that?
They must.
You think they brought that in?
And it is a subtle flex and maybe not so subtle. They're wearing their World Championship jerseys in studio
What's
today.
What's subtle
as well.
about that? They brought a hammer and they're the only team with jerseys.
Right, because I'm saying clearly the hammer's what draws the eyes, but if you look closely.
And they're not wearing the rings, so it's real tasteful,
real
subtle.
No, they've got their World Championship jerseys on. Of course, Big E there filling in the seat for BigManTingz, but BMT will be playing for the squad here today. I think literally the only question around this team is does the meta cater to their play style as well as it did in Season 9? It is one of the most dominant World Championship runs we've seen, one of the most dominant rosters we've seen during a championship stretch. And the only question is, can you play the same way in Season 10 as you did in Season 9? If so, they should be your favorites.
Yeah, I'm not too proud to admit that I have no clue what the Camelot Kings are going to look like. This is our first appearance of the Camelot Kings in Season 10. This is the first time we're going to see them watch or play as a team. So I can only speak of the history of this squad, and it is methodical, slow play that establishes a lead almost from thin air. So often throughout Season 9 we'd say, oh, the Camelot Kings, 10 minutes in, 3K up, where'd that come from? Well, how did it happen? And it would be from collecting camps a bit more consistently, or stealing away camps here or there, or getting onto a Gold Fury early, or controlling the totem. And those are all still possibilities here in Season 10, but it seems like the game almost incentivizes a little bit more action play. It incentivizes high risk with the bounty changes and the ability to make those comebacks so long as you stay active on map. So certainly the Camelot Kings, one of the most mechanical squads in the league. Certainly their team fight always been incredibly powerful. Those are things that are going to remain constant regardless of the meta. But it's God selections, builds, and how those team fight compositions that they used to line up with really stack up in Season 10 that we'll be keeping our eyes on.
Yep. You still got, you got World's MVP on your squad still. You run it back. One of the few teams, I think the only team, right, out of all 8 that have just run back their roster from Season 9, if I'm remembering correctly. And why wouldn't you when you go untouched and unscathed through the SMITE World Championships? And so carrying some confidence. Doesn't Twig just look like there's a weight off? Doesn't he look refreshed? He finally
got a haircut.
I think that's got to be what it is. But look, there's a little smile on his face.
That's a smirk.
It's a smirk. He knows he's won Worlds, and of course he wants to do it again, right? We've seen the meme that was it Goofy that he posts. But now it's to win again. The weight's off. He's won that first one. Now you'd like to repeat, but I think it's a new era, a better era of CaptainTwig and what we're going to be seeing here in Season 10.
If it gets better for Twig, I mean, I'm worried for the rest of the teams in the league. And I think Twig may be one that you can take your eyes on here in Season 10 because his God pool, I think, has transitioned very well. We know that he loves going towards things like the Hun bots. Global presence seems to be very strong as well. So if you're allowed to get your hands on maybe the Thor or something along those lines, sure, Thor at times has looked not great for Twig, but at others has looked very good. These facilitator team fight junglers seem to be very strong, whereas at the offset of Season 10, it was hyper carry jungles, things like the Susano that could just jump into the back line and make it happen all on their own. Seem to have petered off a little bit as we move into 10-3. So if it's a facilitator jungle meta, I mean, look no further than Twig for some of the best you can have.
We figured out a bit of the meta, a bit of what priority is going to be across the league in our first couple of sets of the weekend. But some of the best theory crafters in the world now taking to picks and bans for game number 1 in this best of 3 between the Kings and the Gilded Gladiators. And I think it's worth mentioning, we had the camera on Yark before going into the replay reel. I went back on my stream just after Worlds and watched back some of the casts. I don't know if you noticed this, but Yark, one of the coldest players I've ever seen after winning a game. If you go back and look at Yark after every single game win during the 3-0 grand finals, stands up and almost looks confused, like wondering where his opponents are on the stage. Look, this is a player, he's played in far bigger moments than this, but when tournament time comes rolling around, Yark just finds a way to get it done. World's MVP in Season 8, and a large part of the World Championship run for the Camelot Kings in Season 9. Looks like, though, the picks and bans are going to remain largely the same. Hell and Aphrodite going to get banned, but this time split. Support-centric bans across the Maui, the Terra, and the Umoja. But Herc presence continues, Myth. Looks like for variety this time.
Just massive displacement. We touched on it in the previous set, but Hercules does receive some changes here in 10.3. A little bit less healing overall. That third ability generally just nerfed. Burst healing off rip, reduced, and healing returned from damage also reduced. But what did they shift elsewhere to alleviate some of those pains? And it's Driving Strike and the second ability, the Pool, both now on synced 11-second timers. Used to be it would scale with levels eventually down to 13 seconds. Now 11 at all ranks. Simplifies that pull punch combo, really does allow you to build that CDR, get that cooldown down to, I believe, around 6 seconds when you're at 40%. Just making Hercules an absolute menace in the backline. So good at displacing literally everyone, and just hard to lock down himself. Sure, the healing reduced, but it's still incredibly high.
In variety, one of the best at having a diverse god pool, right? It feels like if solo lane is in a spot where you can play a decent number of gods in that role, variety is going to be able to play them all. During the semifinals of Worlds, played 3 different gods against the Bulls: Xingqian, Raven, Hades. During finals of Worlds, again, played 3 different gods from even the semifinals: Mulan, Hercules, Odin. So 6 different gods in the last 6 games at Worlds, all of them wins. No more than 2 deaths during the semifinals and finals runs at the SMITE World Championship. For genetics specifically out of the solo lane. Dominant performance, or from variety, excuse me, out of the solo lane. Dominant performance there. The support matchup, going to be pivotal here. Can Inbound step up in the same way that he did during the qualifier tournament? Can genetics reprise that World's MVP role? God help us if he can. It's going to be a hard duo lane to beat. Horus plus Cern, though. Looks like a pretty good start here for the Kings.
Yeah, genetics looks confused that he was allowed to get the Horus for himself. Throws up the shrug across the booth there. A pick that has so quickly become associated with this player. One of the first to really utilize that ultimate to the skies to the maximum ability. Transferring minions to enemy phoenixes, or transferring his enemy team to objectives. Keeping your opposition guessing on where exactly you're going to put that pressure. And then otherwise, just high damage output throughout the early games. Just another warrior on your team. Good CC lockdown, largely single target with the updraft. Another disruption factor for the Camelot Kings now with Hercules and Horus forming up your front line.
Yep. The
Gladiators likely will be looking towards maybe their jungler for an answer with a double tank front line, especially 2 that are so committal in their initiation. If Hercules uses Driving Strike or fractures down for Horus, maybe you consider something like a Nemesis to shred through. I know that pick, maybe not the most appearances so far here, but still certainly very capable of throwing a wrench in the works here for the Kings.
Now the work, it really starts for the Gilded Gladiators. We saw some of the peaks and valleys of esports and emotions with this Gladiators team just a month or so ago when they went down 0-2. Remember the picture of Snoopy sitting alone in that team booth, wondering where things went wrong.
Are you referencing your own tweet right now?
No, I'm saying we saw that on, but yes, in a way. I'm using the wording from my tweet.
And the pictures.
To double down on this point, where we saw them at the depths, but then saw this Gilded Gladiators team erupt into happiness just a few hours later. But now the work begins, right? You've qualified into the SPL. If you want to make something happen this year, this is where you got to start building something up against one of the best teams in the world. Draft-wise, they've gotten some stuff that works. You mentioned the dual lane, Ishtar, Khepri. Odin, we saw make some waves in our set earlier on today. So I don't mind the building blocks that the Gladiators have. As we've seen, though, it feels like we've gotten support slash mid, I guess you could almost call it full support bans with the Aphrodite and the Hell in our first wave, followed up by jungle bans in the second 2 for both teams, basically all day long today. And nothing changes here. Batz left open, 50% win rate across a couple of games. A good pick here for Kyrmi to initiate for his team.
Yeah, facilitator style, threatens the front line of the Kings, can really stop them from rolling through the team fight. Fear No Evil, always going to be a great beads burning tool. Does interact decently well up against Hercules, able to reposition yourself if you're pulled out of position relatively easily thanks to that first ability from Batz. This is interesting though, and it's something I had expected to see a whole lot less of from CaptainTwig, that Hebo hover, keeping me guessing. Instead, Ratatoskr. If Twig is concerned about 10-3 or Season 10 in general and how it's affected his god pool, it is not showing itself just yet, because that is just the Twig standard there across the left-hand side of your screen. I mean, top to bottom. I mean, this is just a draft from Season 9 from the Camelot Kings. They've run it back. They may have played this exact draft at Worlds.
They came close to this style, if not this exact draft. You have a skin on the Ratatoskr, right? You do have...
No, that was Divios. Yeah.
You're such a staunch defender of you having a skin on the Rat.
It has a controller, Dave.
Until I call you out on it, and now you don't?
Yeah.
Have the casters argued yet today? Does this count for bingo? You and I
don't think we're arguing. I agreed with you immediately.
No, you said no immediately.
I don't know. Hey,
that was an argument.
Man,
what
SMITE.
we just did right there was an argument. I'm trying to figure out who's got the eager rat skin. That's what I'm trying to figure out. It is you. Okay. Baba Yaga picked for the Camelot Kings to finalize their draft, and then an Eset over on the other side. We saw Eset jungle earlier on today. And if this is looking like it's going towards the mid lane for Snoopy, not here in studio, but still playing with his team from afar, does Eset mid have some value?
I mean, Circle Protection always going to be one of the best objective secures in the game. So if the Gladiators try and reprise the playstyle that we had seen from the SPL play-ins, that would just be get to Gold Fury, ensure that Circle Protection is available, take the coin toss that's weighted in your favor every single time.
Right.
And if you could get a lead off of that, funnel your farm into this Ishtar, allow him to build up that crit early on, could transition into that mid to late game relatively easily. My only concern with this Gladiators draft is if they don't establish a lead through objectives, they will struggle in the team fight. Eset, not exactly the most consistent damage dealer. That ultimate at times really is just the, hey, get off of me button, and if that's the case, you're not finding its full value. That interaction simplified a bit thanks to Odin being on your team. That lockdown of the cage can make it a little bit easier to get the full channeled ultimate aggressively from Eset, but all of a sudden you have to worry about all the disruption for things like Wing Gust, Hercules, Horus both deal with that very well. Even Ratatoskr with his Acorn Blast can stun it out, prevent a large part of your DPS. There's a reason we don't see Eset too often, and it really was when Eset was the meta, just let's get on objectives and run it down. It's a risky play style, but it's one that Snoopy's got plenty of experience playing around.
How concerned are you about the level of global presence and mobility that the Kings have? They've got a Horus that can dropship. They've got a Ratatoskr that can go through the cosmos. Is there enough of a concern that the Gladiators don't have a composition that can either play around that or deal with that to give you large favor towards the Kings in Game 1?
I think the global presence of the Kings will only become a massive deterrent if they have a lead. If they've got the lead and they can take 4v4s or 3v3s or even 2v3s and maneuver the map like that, all of a sudden you're really worried because no matter what, someone's going to be nearby and then get involved in the fight. But from behind, it's mostly, oh, a fight's happening, let me make sure I'm there to help out. So if the Gladiators are able to rally around each other, play that 5-stack, I mean, it's not exactly a concern.
Myth is the big one as far as setting the tone for the year, setting expectations for both of these teams over the course of the early part of Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. Your defending world champions back in action against the SPL newcomers as a roster, the Gilded Gladiators, in Game 1 with Gormizer and Trelly.
Thanks so much, Dave and Myth, and I'm excited to get into this one, Trelly. It is exactly what he highlights towards the end there. Our first look at the Kings since they raised the hammer. And, of course, the first look at the Gladiators since they qualified in. We got Doug, who's going to be guiding us through this game. Immediately, where does your mind go when you're looking at this team? First off, I see Tings playing on a Baba Yaga, and I think, one, That's like, from what we've seen over the last couple of years, very European of you, but also something that maybe screams a little late game compared to the rest of his comp, which screams, we're going to fight whenever.
Yeah, they have a lot of early game presence.
Stu?
Yeah, you're just getting a little damage. It's one of the things that you gotta get every once in a while.
Huh?
In this case, it does look like early pressure throughout, but Genetics is gonna try and stop this back forever. And now,
Yeah, he has to use a... Huh? Is anybody else confused? Maybe
No.
it's just me.
that's just good gameplay. It was clear to me that what was going on there. And now Stuart.
That's actually the real separation between me and like you, right?
Yeah.
That's why he's in the Pro League.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I wouldn't be able to replicate that play, but I can understand it. So that's why I'm able to analyze that play.
Grand scheme. All right, this is actually a genuine question. Grand scheme. How big of a difference maker is it that he had to pop one of his pots this early in comparison? Like, is that going to really, like, truthfully affect the lane?
Well, he's got...
Having 2 versus 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's got plenty of sustain. He's got a Khepri shield. I think he's going to be just fine. If Genetics and Jarcorrr decide to get pressure, Stuart will be in a little bit of trouble just because, you know, they've got the heals. They've got some pretty solid clear. But it's Ishtar. She doesn't use too much mana. It's Khepri. You're going to be sitting back. You're not looking to get too aggressive.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to add up unless, of course, the Camelot Kings decide to get active on the left side of the map very early on. And because they have that Ratatoskr, they are able to get active if they would like to.
Something they could always open up. Twig loves this pick. Currently just boxing around in mid, it looks like. A little stun onto Kyrmi. And Kyrmi's messing with me here by picking a Hunbats in a game that Twig exists as well. I'm going to get confused.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Stuart's gone. It matters so much. I finally figured out why they did it, and it doesn't matter. They were trying to stack Eset passive and let Snoopy witness death, and then it got stopped, and then he used a health bot, and then he got first blood. So, Kings, I don't know. I guess they saw the play coming. Either way, Stuart, you trolled. I don't know what to say.
All right, but now reverts back to the same conversation, but in a different light, which is that worth it? Do you see that?
All,
like, if
no.
you get a passive proc onto Snoopy, like if you told me he just walked 2 steps too far forward, I'd believe it. But if there's like a genuine reason, like is the passive Snoopy could get from that
No,
worth the
at
death
all.
so early on?
Not at all. And now Bobby's in trouble. I mean, this lane is going to be so much more difficult. And I bet you it was Snoopy's call. He's like, hey, I could get some extra stats if you go and die real quick. So he's like, all right, we got some time. Then Genetics walks up, BMT walks up, and they go, oh, we got to call it off. And then First Blood comes through. So just unfortunate. I guess very fortunate for the Camelot Kings. You got off to a great start for Jarcorrr. Get that First Blood bounty. You're going to finish your Bloodforge or Dev Gauntlets, whatever one you decide to go for. Usually, as of now, it's been Bloodforge.
Yeah.
And because you got that extra golden pocket, you don't feel too bad buying Bloodforge first item.
Yeah. Let's look at the other side of the map for a little bit, though. And very specifically, I'm looking towards Scary D on this Odin, who we might get to see a little bit of here. Twig is going for a blue buff invade. Seen, stunned, locked down a little bit by Scary D. Does not successfully steal the buff away, but does get away with his life, so Twig is to breathe easy. The Odin versus the Hercules. Feels like, you know, Odin, especially in this conversation, right? A lot of gods that have dashes, but nothing that gets them over a wall. Unless, you know, you're Twig, you commit an ult, Tings, things like that. In these moments, you know, are the walls enough? Has Odin had enough changes to him or any buffs or anything like that to make him worthwhile?
It's one of those picks that if you can get value out of in your lane matchup, and then you camp that lane matchup, you could get value even without the cage late game.
Yeah.
But it does not seem that easy to just bully variety, even
Or
if
Hercules.
Yeah, even if you send the whole cage over. What are you fighting into? You got to fear no evil, but it's just so much protection, so much, you know, juke ability that I think this Hercules gets, especially when you get that regrowth online.
Yeah.
So it looks like Scary D's picking that more for late game, trying to set up for his team with some massive ultimates. It can force the Phantom Shell, and I think that alone can bring some value. We'll have to see exactly how much. It doesn't look like Scary D's going to be getting any pressure anytime soon, though. Variety has been owning this lane for the time being.
Yeah, very controlled, very, I guess, calm. I mean, the way that Hercules is, right? If you've played in lane against him or watched pretty much any of the pros pilot it, it feels like Hercules sometimes is quite literally carefree. Like, he did his own trials. He's already done all the hard stuff. Now he's just wandering around. And like you said, whenever we start to see his itemization, I expect it to be a lot more. I'm also interested in the fact, like, outside of that first blood, let's call it a faux pas, there hasn't been as much aggression, and maybe from the Hunbats that makes a lot of sense, right? We're used to seeing Hunbats farm until 5, and usually then farm until 10 or 12 before he starts getting super active. Would you have expected, I mean, it's Twig, so it's kind of half and half. Would you have expected him to start getting maybe a little more present on this rat so far?
I'm thinking if Kyrmi's not on Hunbats, there's a chance that he just goes blink and does get active, but because you're fearing that CC, because you're forced into the beads, you gotta get a little bit more active and you gotta find things like variety. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's still gonna be difficult to bring him down.
Well, there's the cage, and that keeps variety here long enough. Good push, and a good knockback. Variety's walking away, not gonna walk away alive though. Gets under the tower, scared he eats a shot, but he gets the kill. Keeps on walking. Twig on the other side of the map, stunned in the circle of protection, tries to get up in the air, and just not able, but it's not. Stop for the Kings. They go in, Genetics trying to lead his troops. Snoopy's low, gets the Khepri res. Despite Inbound and Snoopy both being about 1 hit away. They get to back to base. Gladiators pick up 2.
Yeah, if Genetics lands a bit earlier, maybe they're able to find a little bit more aggression there. Good by Inbound to hold on to that ultimate until he absolutely thought that it was necessary. Kill over onto Variety. I thought the double stun into the double knockup might have been enough, but with the Bastions, the Sacred Monkey Toss, you can't really miss it. You throw it against the Bastion, say, hey, go get him. And it did look like Scary D had the bird palm locked in as well, so they had plenty of ways to confirm that kill. And then Twig trying to get aggressive on the left side of the map, a little bit too far. You still have to respect that circle of protection. If it's going to get fully stacked, it doesn't just burst objectives. Yeah. You can kill gods with that ability, and Twig was not able to get back up into the sky, and he unfortunately bit off a little bit more than he could chew.
Now, it's still early, so this might be jumping the gun a little bit. But, friendly reminder, last year, Leviathans, they look really good during their World Championship. Phase 1 throughout last year was not the cleanest for them. I'm wondering where the Kings' mentality's at right now. Looking for long win streaks as well. That's something this team could do, sticking together. Considering the way they ended the phase, ended the year. Definitely a lot of presence for them, depending on how this set goes. For now, they're caught maybe on the back foot. They go forward. Gladiators get the Gold Fury. Twig leading the way, immediately melts down Snoopy with the help of Jarcorrr. Now Tingz leading the way, and the home, sweet home, and sending Inbound home, back into the dirt, back into base.
Yeah, I mean, the Camelot Kings had the gold lead before. With that Gold Fury, it did look like for a second they were going to be able to lose it, but with 2 kills, Inbound's ultimate wasn't quite up yet, and Snoopy had to stay there with the circle of protection, didn't have the beads. So a great reinitiation there from the Camelot Kings. They're going to keep that gold lead and push it even further. This is what they've always been good at, though. Yeah. Even if they lose fights, they're playing the neutral objective as well as they can, focusing out these Bastions. I've been watching Tingz. He holds those potions, puts them on whenever he can. And unfortunately, Variety falls down early on to a gank, but the farm on the left side of the map, good invades, they're always getting active. I mean, this Ratatoskr is almost never on the Camelot King's side of the map. He is trying to invade whenever possible. You can beat him in fights, but that gold,
case in point,
it's going to keep going.
It looked like he was going for green. He fell back and did those pesky spawning in mid-camps.
Unfortunate.
So Twig making me a liar.
Nope.
For at least a second. Now he's going to go for some of the invades. And like you said, he's just playing a little more aggressively. You're seeing the involvement. I mean, over the wall damage from teams doesn't seem like a lot, but you're splitting camps that aren't yours. And it might only cost you variety. Fear no evil, drop down to control the Hercules, pulled back by Inbound. There's the cage again, and they're trying to lock him down. The boulder gets thrown out. There's a double push. But Variety's just buying time and eating ults. Takes 2 to kill him, but he still goes down.
Oh, Stuart's ult did get body blocked, and he used the beads. Does he think he can live this? Let's find out.
He's trying, but not very successful in that regard. Throughout his ult, didn't get the stuns. And I think just a hair off there, Trelly, of maybe turning something around into an impressive play.
Yeah, I don't think I would have beads. It just seems like a guaranteed kill. It's clear that your whole team is forcing something on the right side of the map. You're definitely going down. You just try to escape or, at the very least, give up the tower. But Stuart loses his beads, his ult, and the tower on the left side of the map. Camelot Kings, they're not going to take something lying down. Yeah. You may send 3 over to a gank over to solo, but they're going to get your tower, and they're going to kill your ADC in the process. And Jarcorrr becomes an increasingly scary threat. This 3-0 Cern, as the full Blood Forge, is not going into crit just yet. Notably, Stuart is trying to get some extra crit chance online, but Yark, he's got time. He's just going to get a full Executioner.
Not common. You get to see that back, right? He's got a tier 1, gets the full Exe at level 11. He's 2 levels up. You would call that now starting to potentially look at some crit items. A very interesting change-up compared to what we see. Executioner, it feels like, Trelly, we talked a lot about all the items that got smacked because a ton of things got hit. Outside of the Bloodforge, like that, I mean, the Executioner has been pretty standard for years.
Yep. It's a great penetration option, and especially if you're trying to shred for, for genetics, for Twig, for variety, it helps out. When you have a heavy fizz composition, it is a good way to go. So I think that's what Yark's looking for, saying, hey, I can help you guys out. It's going to help me do more damage, and I've got this massive lead. I don't really have to focus on crit just yet, because I've just been boxing my lane opposition. With that being said, though, Primal Fury's coming back up soon. You got to imagine the Camelot Kings putting some more pressure towards the left side of the map in the meantime, but they got to watch out for Snoopy. Whenever Circle Protection's up, they can't just go for a pull. They're usually trying to bait a fight.
There seems to be something going on in mid. Genetics pulled back. Fear no evil. They want to kill this Horus, but that cooldown was just buffed on the dash. He gets out of there. Home sweet home for BigManTingz. Rat's in the air as well. It's going to be a dunk, but only knocks up Inbound. Doesn't have the help that is necessary. Variety rotates in, trying to bully them all, but it's a 1v5, and the Hercules just can't win that one. It's a 2-man swing for the Gladiators.
That was a great ult by Stu, though. I think that he got a double pull. Inbound immediately uses the abduct to stop the driving strike, and then the ult, the swords there from Ishtar make sure that he can't driving strike out of trouble. Good call here by Yark, though, to start up the Primal Fury. Looks like would be able to solo or be close, but the rest of the team's on the way to help out just in case, making sure the Primal Fury is the answer back. Finally, the gold started to get even for a second, but not quite yet, because again, the Camelot Kings, they never rest. If there's farm to be had, they're going to find it. Purple buff invade as well. They're making sure the Gilded Gladiators are just out of reach farm-wise.
And you have to imagine it's a little worrisome, right? If you think about the trends of teams when they've qualified through the play-in, and specifically actually some of the players on the Gladiators, it is not uncommon for your early game to maybe be scrappier, right? You're looking not just looking for fights, but you are able typically to maybe manifest a small gold lead. But it's the late game, and as you had highlighted, the macro play that the Kings bring that is just so difficult, and to the point where we had so many teams last year that literally couldn't do it, and they got themselves a championship. Now you're looking nothing too massive, right? Still under 2,000 when you're 12 minutes in. That's manageable at this point. But like you said, almost every question the Gladiators have asked, the Kings have been able to answer with something on the map. So Fire Giant, when it does come up into the conversation, let's say 6 minutes minimum from now, maybe earlier if the Kings can find something big or the Glads find something big. But until then, that's maybe the big swing point to either keep you in this game or knock you out of this game, depending on how the Kings keep playing the map. Maybe they can find a kill over here. Variety has just been under a lot of pressure, and they haven't found much of an answer back for the Hercules.
Yeah, I love this play. Every time we see these teams go for the lane swap, it's usually when an ADC has gotten the tower over on left, they are extremely strong, and they say, hey, Stuart's not going to be able to touch you, so you, Variety, you go to the left side of the map, get some farm. We're going to send Yark over, and there's nothing that Scared he's going to be able to do. Once those autos start flying, he has to back up. So it's essentially a full-on swap, because this time Genetics actually follows suit as well. Variety's just going to hold waves, make sure Stuart cannot step this far up to get farm. And now you've got your Hunter on the right side of the map, close to Fire Giant if you need it. It's always going to net a good play. Kyrmi sticking around, maybe trying to find a Fear No Evil in the tower, maybe just looking for some beads. But I don't think there's any fighting to be had over here. Yark's too scary right now.
And you know, it maybe feels, again, too early to say this in the season. I love watching the Kings play.
Oh, yeah.
I think just in general, the way they think about SMITE, like, I mean, this is still the same roster that won a world championship and gave us another 3-0.
2 months ago.
Yeah, they are so good at playing. And the Glads have matched for a lot of this game. there's always those little moments, right? And it's the swaps that you're mentioning, right? Where it's just the mentality to immediately do so. Maybe it's nothing too big. Maybe I'm harping on something that's really just a small detail, but all of a sudden you're talking about a gap that's lessened for variety. Maybe some more farm, although not much he can do over here outside of just farm things up. Meanwhile, Jarcorrr still hunting for a tower and still forcing more than anything Kyrmi to just kind of play stuck to this lane.
Yeah, that's what I love about this play, right? Because the way that the fights were going, it looks like easy Horus ult out, that's going to be the end of the fight, was that play, right? Where ScaryD and Kyrmi, cage in variety, look for a kill, and that's fine because Gold Fury is the objective. But in this case, Kyrmi blinks in, tries to find Chase Down. Here comes Snoopy. Does not seem like anything else will come from this. My point is, if you try to force too much on the right side of the map, you're fighting into fed Jarcorrr. So you have the opposite solution. Hey, maybe we go gank variety again. He's all the way on the left. You're giving up Fire Giant if you do that. So the Kings have put the Gladiators in a position where they can't camp variety anymore. And Stuart still can't step up to farm. He's back by his where his tier 1 tower would be if it was still existing.
The ghost of tier 1 towers passed.
Yes, exactly.
Unfortunate for him. Not much you can do about it now. Jarcorrr finally gets that tier 1 over and right. Pyromancer's up, and the team's already on it. It's halfway down. The Kings should be able to close this one out no problem, get themselves a Runic Bomb. Looks like Genetics is going to be the one to pick that one up. Oni Fury spawns, but immediately the Kings are running right over there. Variety's playing Nuisance, and he's making sure to keep them engaged. Inbound. It's a little bit of damage in the process, but it looks like the Gladiators don't want to pick this fight.
Not yet. ScaryD's on the way. Does have Blink, does have a cage if necessary in about a couple seconds. Not quite off cooldown, and Variety may have went too far.
He's getting chased down, fighting in the green buff, pulled in, damage is there, and it's going to find the kill. But do they have any retaliation? Twig's up in the air, looking for a knock-up. Inbound's low, Genetics leading the way. Twig procs the res, is able to help pick one up. Jarcorrr finds Snoopy, threads the needle through all 5, gets the mid laner. And look, you go 1 for 1 solo for mid, but you're going to get a Fury plus the Pyro after. The Kings are more than happy for a play like this.
Yeah, and remember, they just lost the Pyromancer. As you said, they've got the Runic Bomb in hand, and it looks like just double-checking, making sure no Fire Giant is looked at. The ward coverage is there, so they don't have to fret about it too much. But always smart to face check it, especially when you don't have vision, so Twig's going to head over there. Once you get eyes on Inbound, you know that no sneaky plays are happening. BigManTingz, level 17 at 17. Has been farming the map disgustingly well, as you would expect.
He's fighting Shinto for the farmer name.
Yeah, and he's been doing it.
Doing it real well for a while.
He's been doing it for a while. Yeah, he knows how to prioritize farm. He's still in the team fights. But Yark right there with him, top of the gold charts as you would expect. These carries are looking untouched. I mean, it's going to be very difficult for the Gilded Gladiators to get to them because, you know, ScaryD gets a big cage, but it's usually on variety. It's usually on the front line. Getting all the way to the back means you're probably getting shred through.
Yeah, has not been a very stalwart moment for the Gladiators front line so far. Inbound finally had to use his ult on himself and had it procced during that fight. That keeps him alive, unfortunately, for Snoopy. It opened up a lot of conversation around him. And those beads are down for just a little under a minute and a half now. Same for the Aegis. So we might see some pressure in mid. It's interesting, always interesting to me, the pace of the Kings games. Because can they do a Fire Giant right now? There's question marks maybe around that. But they're not going to force anything they don't have to. They're going for control, and they've got it. They took both of the objectives that they needed to. Maybe they can find some picks that opens up that FG conversation. Snoopy might be the call here. Immediate damage. Oh my God, Tings
He didn't know they were there.
Swinging. And Snoopy had nothing to say about it. That's dead, and 2 now pushed back by Variety. They're looking for Kyrmi. The res procs, and Inbound tries to get him out of there. But up on the tree branch of Yggdrasil, Twig, he's hunting for a little bit more. He's going to go for the knockup. Gets the blink from Kyrmi. Great play by the jungler from the Gladiators. Gets himself out alive.
I mean, that was a are you trapped with me or am I trapped with you moment. Variety was the only one caged off. Snoopy just had no idea how out of position he was. And then Variety turns the cage into, oh, I'm going to double pull and make sure that Kyrmi's in a bad spot. Didn't even have the beads, used the blink to escape the ult, which I think is a good play from Twig and Kyrmi. You knew the blink was coming, at least you force it out, make sure you can't blink in, fear no evil, something like that towards fire. And now, Camelot Kings get a 19-minute Fire Giant, and they're going to push down right side, grab themselves a tier 2. In the meantime, Gladiators need to try and get as much farm as they can, steal some away. It looks like try to force a kill on a Twig if possible, but it's not going to be easy to kill that rat. He's got Blink, he doesn't have ult or beads, so maybe a good CC chain. But Snoopy's not going to stick around. They're going to let this one go.
Kills are 6-6, but it's 6,000. Let's go ahead and bump that number up in favor of the Kings. They're starting to knock on the right side. Phoenix push a wave forward. Seems like they don't feel too confident. Sub 20 minutes running into that one. Steal away a speed buff. And maybe join Twig here in mid. Looking for tier 2. Maybe just going right back to Pyro. Get a second Runic Bomb. And Charlie, suddenly the conversation gets an interesting shift. With the second Runic Bomb involved, you can start maybe looking at some of these Phoenixes in earnest, even though the game time are so low.
I mean, there's still two tier 2 towers.
Yeah.
And it's 20 minutes in the game. This is not Phoenix time, but with 2 Runic Bombs, it becomes Phoenix time. There is an opportunity if there's some good picks, or if the Gilded Gladiators are off split pushing, you know, trying to find some free farm before next Fire Giant. There definitely could be an opportunity to try and go in for that left side bird, but playing as calculated as ever. Primal Fury comes up first. Let's grab that, take it off the map, make sure there's no comeback mechanics here for the Gilded Gladiators. I wouldn't be surprised if Genetics camps that chest just to make sure you can deny that gold and make sure the Gladiators have no shot of trying to get online, because XP-wise, Snoopy's level 16. I mean, he's 4 levels down. This Eset is not a character. It's just ultimate. That's it.
But it does open the door to a conversation I didn't know if we were going to be able to have, but recently the changes, when you're this far behind, Snoopy, the thing you're getting from killing Snoopy is that Snoopy's no longer on the board. But gold experience-wise, maybe not going to snowball it as hard in favor of the Kings. If you can get a kill, that'd be a big deal. Some of the changes to how the bounties work. It's a big if, though, right now. It has not been a very comfortable game for the Eset. Beats Aegis up again. It looks like the Kings are setting themselves up for a Phoenix.
I wouldn't be surprised if they go for the play.
Maybe
you know,
the Fury
the
after.
Genetics could always ult them in. Ult in a wave, you got to guess. Left or right. He's setting up for it. He's on. Yep, let's see. Left or right. Which play? They're splitting up. They don't know where he's going.
He's got minions.
He's going left for sure. They don't know. Scaredy's the only one who's close.
He brings 3 with him. They're going to go left. Immediately, that thing gets chunked. There's the bombs doing their work, but do they have the damage afterward to win the fight? So far, the cage is looking good, but not good enough. Snoopy is taking a ton, but Kyrmi is gone. Make that 2 with the jungler, the mid, the support, all falling one by one. The Kings play this one clean. They show that they still got it after just a few months. And they're going to take game number 1 over the Gladiators.
Did anyone tell them this isn't the World Finals? Did we not make sure they knew? Because this is about as clean as you could. They dropped some kills early, but they always have. That's not the Camelot Kings playstyle. Oh, we're not going to drop any deaths. Their playstyle is we're going to make sure every bit of uncontested farm and every farm we can safely contest is going to belong to us. You can have a couple kills. Sure, Variety's going to get ganked once or twice, but we will be ahead. More specifically, the duo lane will be ahead. Jarcorrr sitting at like 4-0 at that point. No one was stepping up to that Cernunnos. After that, lane swap, Variety is starving out Stu. BigManTingz is level 20. You look up, and the game's already over.
And it's one of the things, you know, I had said during the game, like, oh, they're so fun to watch. It's just because watching their map play feels so different compared to everybody else in the league. And it's not even anything beyond the way they move. I mean, it is very fluid. It feels like they are 3 steps ahead of you. They know what kind of moves they're going to force teams into. And it's always been a pleasure to watch. And the good news is, for people who were a big fan of that last year, you're seemingly getting more of that. Gladiators got to figure out how to start contesting some of this. Otherwise, we might be in for a quick set. We'll see what they can do right after this.
Gladiators unable to replicate what their qualifier counterparts were able to do earlier on today. They fall to the Camelot Kings in Game 1, at least. We'll see if the Gilded Gladiators have a little fight back in them here in Game 2. And if they have it their way, onto a Game 3. As with new teams joining the SPL, we've got new jerseys for those teams in the SPL as well. And so if you at home are a Gilded Gladiators fan, I've got good news for you. You can grab yourself a Gilded Gladiators jersey, a shirt, potentially a hoodie if you want to stay warm in what could be trying times here up against the Camelot Kings. You need to feel cozy. That's a great way to get it done. So the Gilded Gladiators, all four of the new brands to the SPL this year, all available now thanks to our apparel sponsor, Skulls. And, of course, the other four teams that we are bringing back, those brands, also available in the shop as well. And actually, I believe the Kings, and we saw the really cool gold jerseys that they're wearing in the booth right now, as well as the championship hoodie, those sorts of things still available. So if you're a Kings fan and you want to celebrate a SMITE World Championship Camelot Kings win, still got time to do so in style. And that's thanks to Skulls, our apparel sponsor here in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League. It's the Camelot Kings who are able to run back their style myth here in game number 1. I would say knocking off some rust, right? This is far from the cleanest game we've seen from the Kings, but once you kind of hit that mid-game pivot point, it is pretty clean from the Kings on their stretch towards a win.
Yeah, it starts off incredibly fast. There's that first split over in the duo lane. From there, Jarcorrr felt like he was never out of control, regardless of the slash line at the top of the screen, I believe, equalizing at 6-6 at one point. It was immediately rectified by the Camelot Kings and Genetics on one of his signature picks on this Horus. He's able to maneuver the map so well. The Kings sure weren't quite able to establish that signature, hey, we haven't fought just yet, but we're 4,000 gold up anyway, lead. But it did really feel like there was no pressure on them almost. At no point was I thinking to myself, oh, the Gladiators, they're starting to run away with it. They're starting to build something up here. At every single turn, it felt like the Camelot Kings had just had an answer, be it Jarcorrr free casting in every single team fight, be it Variety disrupting that backline so well, the repositioning of Genetics. It's just the Gilded Gladiators could not quite find how they wanted to approach the engagements themselves. And for the most part, when the Camelot Kings are given the proactive element, when they're the ones making the decisions, they just make the right ones.
Right, and that mid-game point where you kind of stabilize at 6-6, you realize you let a few get away from you earlier, and then it only takes like 3 or 4 more kills to actually end the game from that point on. Yark picks up right where you left off at the SMITE World Championships, 6-0-3 to start off his season here in Season 10, and great luck from the rest of the Camelot Kings as well. As we so often say, and it's maybe a cliche that's a bit overused at this point, there are moments in that game from the Gladiators where there's some fight back. You're thinking, okay, they've out-scrapped the Kings in different moments, and so not an entire loss. Well,
No.
literally, yes, in the terms
Well, yeah.
of wins and losses, but there are good things to be gleaned from if you're the Gilded Gladiators. I think you clean up a bit of that early game, Stu taking a couple tower shots and really being put behind in that lane did not do the Gladiators any favors. So you stabilize a bit of that early game. Potentially you're looking a bit better come the mid-game and therefore maybe later on. But this is the Kings we're talking about, and they're feeling just fine moving into picks and bans for game number 2. I don't imagine, Miff, we're going to see much change as far as Hel, Aphrodite, Yamoja, Terra specifically in this set. We wondered how Terra priority would change. Genetics pretty vocal that Terra got better in the recent update. And we essentially saw 5 support bans plus a Tiamat last time around, and I imagine it'll be pretty similar here for game 2.
Yeah, the only adaptation I could see potentially happening in the first phase of bans is the Gladiators might not want to play against that Horus again. Otherwise, I suppose the Kings might as well take something away from the Gladiators themselves, the Odin ban. So adaptations from them.
Hel?
Yeah, Hel's still available. Do the Kings first pick it, though? Hel doesn't exactly scream Camelot Kings to me.
I wonder what that is. I mean, you would assume if you're banning Odin instead of Aphrodite or Hel. If it's any other team, I'm thinking they're just picking up whichever the 2 of those don't get banned out. Clearly Hercules still the value here. Those are the Kings we're talking about. This is the type of team where they're probably saying, let's see if we can, beat the Hel. It's the type of team who are so confident that there's a world where they just want to play against it. But I'm not sure the Gladiators will reach for it just yet. I don't know why I'm thinking about Variety playing Hel. I feel like he's done that in the past.
He has.
For some reason.
Like maybe 5 years?
I'm thinking like in 7 or 8, Variety was playing Hel solo. I don't know why that's on my brain.
Maybe like one game. I remember back in like Season 5, he had done it a few times for sure.
I could have just a really bad memory. Entropy.
Or really good memory.
Entropy and Murphy's Law and Cole's Law and those sorts of things just swirling around in my brain. But it's the Hercules for Variety this game. The Gladiators thinking long and hard about what they want with their first couple of picks. I wonder if this Odin ban has really thrown them for a loop. I wonder if the Gladiators really debating on whether Hel is the answer here in their first wave of picks.
I mean, who's going to be your Hel player? We know that
Bobby.
Inbowned in particular has played Sylvanas in the past, an AoE healer that wants to get in your face. Doesn't exactly have the ultimate initiation, but maybe similar now in playstyle to what Sylvanas does bring. Instead, that's different. Merlin this early in the draft. That almost indicates to me that the Gladiators just want to wait. They just want to wait on their picks. Let's get something safe, plug and play, toss it over towards the mid lane, trust that Snoopy's going to be able to pilot it very well. It's one of Snoopy's favorite picks at that. So Merlin's certainly not poor by any stretch of the imagination, but not a pick that's been at the top of the priority list either.
Mercury, Baba Yaga. Gotta go fast. So, late game snowball potential if the Kings were able to get there, which we know that they can. Twig, a smile on his face. Mercury in a really good spot right now. Apparently Baba Yaga is as well. The 25% win rate across 4 games. Not the most glowing resume for Baba just yet out of mid, but Merc has seen some value already here today. Wonder how much that forces the Gilded Gladiators to reconsider, though. Doesn't feel like the Kings have revealed too much. Though Susano been banned out 83% of the time here today. Get its first pick, and it's likely in the hands of Kyrmi.
One of Kyrmi's favorite picks, the ability to get involved in that back line. Massive disruption with the Typhoon. Strong early game. Could allow him to try and bully out this Mercury for the first 5 or so levels. And generally, until that Mercury starts to build up some crits, Susano going to have a significant advantage there. Scales well into the team fight. We've seen the slower build out of the jungle from adapting earlier. If you want to be a Transcendence, Brawler's Beat Stick kind of guy, Susano leverages that very well. If it's Jotun's hi-rez, he does the exact same there. Just a whole lot of damage early on, and generally very plug-and-play in the majority of your compositions. Susano doesn't necessarily need the most help from the rest of his draft. So another pick that the Gladiators, I suppose, pretty happy with, but still, looking at how their composition is starting to round out now, the front line, the only question mark for the Gladiators, who are your tanks going to be? You have to go pretty far down that tier list. The Kings take off 2 with their second phase of bans, and with so many banned out already, we're going to be digging into the back pocket here for the Glads.
Man, I wonder, and the only reason I bring up Hell so much is because she's been prioritized in the other 5, 6 games we've seen so far today. Wonder if this is the Kings saying they have no intention of playing it, but also don't think that the Gladiators had any intention of playing it either on the other side. So they'll leave it open. So Hades and Cabrakan take a seat. So does Horus. So I wonder where Variety will end up, or Genetics will end up going. Won't get your Terra, won't get your Umoja. Horus, Aphrodite, all gone. Cabrakan, Hades, Maui.
Do you even know who you're fighting?
But we'll see. We'll see how Genetics chooses to prioritize. Worth mentioning, that is not a Bologna pick for the Gilded Gladiators. It is a Surtr pick for the Gilded Gladiators. So it's Merlin, Ishtar, Susano, Surtr, and not Bologna for that 4th pick. And it'll be our first look, I say hesitantly, at Surtr.
Yes, you got it.
I gotta have more confidence in myself. First look at Surtr in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League.
Yeah, I wonder. Some of the healing changes, how they affected Surtr, could be a little bit more difficult for him to stay sustained in some of these team fights, but one of the hardest picks to lock down, has good dive potential, relatively high damage output so long as you can play the Surtr minigame well, and that's what I call stacking up that first ability. Massive dot damage, good stun, survivability with a CC immune ultimate, as well as the ability to reposition on map relatively well. It's not exactly as mobile as things like Thor or Thanatos, but within the same realm, I'd argue. You can leave Surtr alone on an island in lane, doesn't necessarily struggle in any of these matchups either. But now the Kings have got similar levels of sustain. Hercules is going to be able to do the same. Cerberus now to steal away some of that Surtr sustain. And even have that large AoE CC in some of these team fights at that. I like this Kings draft. It's a little bit different from what we've become accustomed to seeing from them. It's not the standard Season 9 Kings, but it's just strong, top to bottom. Every one of these picks feels like they've been prioritized very high in every game so far today.
Between a Merlin and an Ishtar, though, it's about as tried and true of a backline as you can get. You talk about safety, it's there for the Gladiators. It's something Snoopy can perform on. And it's something that we know that Stu can perform on with the Ishtar. Susano for Kyrmi is pretty tried and true with his pick. So then the question ends up being a frontline duo. Remember, it is a Surtr, not a Bologna for the Gladiator. So Surtr plus Fafnir. In general, would you consider that a frontline that you have some confidence in?
Surtr, 100%. That guy is massive disruption, hard to lock down, really good at dealing just enough damage that the backline of the Kings won't be able to ignore him. Fafnir, on the other hand, I've been hot and cold on this pick.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just dominating. When Coerce is just ripping through objectives, it feels like Fafnir might just be the best. If you're not hitting your hammers consistently, all of a sudden Fafnir looks like one of the worst gods out of support. So the Gladiators have got themselves a draft that I think maybe a bit difficult to play around in the team fight. Who's initiating the fight every single time? You got single target CC from Fafnir. You've got single target CC from Surtr. They're both one-man stuns. If the front line of the Camelot Kings are able to stand between the Gladiators and the back line of the Kings, all of a sudden you don't have that standard, all right, I'm just going to go in Fear No Evil. I'm just going to go in with a Confound. I'm going to make it very easy for my own back line to apply that damage. Maybe best case scenario is like a pull from Susano or maybe a Typhoon from range. Otherwise, a very high execution composition from the Gladiators. And the Kings, they ask difficult questions constantly. They do not often make mistakes, and if you've made it difficult for yourself through composition by making your win conditions narrow, I don't think you've done yourself a favor on the Gladiators. Whereas when you look at this Kings draft, I mean, pull-punch combo, that's as simple as it gets. I mean, single target, but at least you're displacing them as well. Or massive AoE CC from the Cerberus. Scaling late-game jungler out of this Mercury. Rama as well, with this crit build that's been so prevalent with the Hunters, going to scale very, very well. I think that this is a game, maybe even more so than Game 1, that the laning phase is going to be very telling. If the Gladiators can get their heads on their shoulders correctly, can lock down in that laning phase and transition into the mid-game with a lead, there's a draft that could run away with it. If it goes into an even state late game, I feel like the Kings just have the team fight.
Defending world champion Camelot Kings, they made their mark in Game 1. Will they 2-0 sweep the Gilded Gladiators? We will find out in game number 2 with Gormizer and Trelly.
Thanks so much again, Dave and Miff. And you hear it, Trelly, there. Mifflin talking about the lane phase being incredibly important here for the Gladiators. It's specifically because when you look at the other side, you've got quite a few late-game hyper carries. Well, something that might cause a little trouble for that lane phase. Genetics on the Hercules, sending variety on the Cerberus over towards solo. Definitely changes the pace of things. A Hercules, anytime you get a warrior in the duo lane, Trelly.
Something to note. Stuart's nowhere near a tower.
I thought you were going to mention the fact that there's like a million pings that were coming up between the teams.
I think they were just trying to decide which start they wanted to do. That's normal, you know. We're going to accept that. But Stuart's nowhere near it. Well, he's near his own tower. That doesn't count. He's nowhere near the enemy tower, so that's a good sign. Should be staying away from getting first blooded this time around. And I do like the team fight of both of these teams, depending on how they're able to get started, right? If Inbound is able to lead the fight with the Draconic Transformation, you just charge up Stuart, you charge up Scary D, heck, even Kyrmi can get some value from it, and then that Horus really can change the tides of a team fight. But the Camelot Kings knew that, and they brought plenty of objective shred of their own. They've got the Mercury, they've got Rama. I mean, even Tings can provide some damage with that home sweet home, so it could be gnarly, depending on where they do decide to group up. I'm excited to see how they decide to use their tools, but genetics on the Hercules is something that I didn't think I was going to see today. We'll have to see if he's on point with those pulls. He usually is with most other characters, so I got to imagine it's something he's had in his back pocket for a bit.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun lane to keep our eyes on. This one as well, right? Surtr hasn't been seen too much. Actually, before I get into that, I do want to mention, I loved the different starts that we've had so far today. I feel like we've seen a different one, even right there. Very deliberately kill one small, pull it together, things like that, where it's so interesting to see how the teams are still trying to figure it out. Because a lot of the changes, you would think at this point, because we're a couple months into the season, maybe you'd have it. But a lot of the health bars and the experience that you get just got changed in 10-3. Still a lot of learning room. And maybe something that they'll have to deal with. Same thing here in the solo lane, as mentioned before. Surtr, who has not been available for competitive play prior to this weekend. And so the first time we really get to see a true look at him, what Scary D is going to be able to provide, how the lane's going to go. Mifflin had mentioned how some of the changes have affected him. How have you felt? I mean, just like looking at Surtr in general, I've not played as much. I personally dread going into solo lane, so I avoid it at all costs. How have you seen him doing, whether it's on your team, whether you're playing him? What's your feel on Surtr?
I think that Surtr can provide some pretty sweet dive if, the enemy team's not ready for it. It's just one of those abilities that if anyone's got a sprint, you're not really closing too much gap. He's a lane bully for sure, but with variety going Tainted Steel and Cerberus, not going to be healing too much, so Scary D's going to be forced out of lane more often than not, just because he's not going to be able to rely on his sustain, and he went for the Sigil start, so he's not going to be doing much damage to the minions as is. And that, I think, is going to make his late game a little bit worse, because he's not going to be quite as ahead.
Yeah.
That's one of his greatest strengths. If Surtr's ahead, he can just W key carries. If he's from a midway point or even behind, it becomes a lot more difficult to be a frontliner as a Surtr.
Oh, wow. Aggression onto Genetics, of all things. It was Genetics who forced the Gladiators off of the shield buff. Not going to be able to find first blood yet. That might just be duo lane. Twigs rotated in, looking to cause some trouble for Scary D. Picks him up, throws him back. There's the stun from Variety. Damage! Oh, is lacking a little bit here. They need a little more. Kyrmi has enough of a presence to stop this. Hits level 4 as he jumps into the lane. Twigs low. Not a lot of mana to work with here.
Wow.
And that's going to be an easy first blood. I mean, just simple textbook pull back damage for Kyrmi.
Yeah, I don't know why Twig beat so early. It seemed like he didn't have to. There's only one CC ability you got to watch out for, and it's the pull. And he beats a little early. Maybe he was just panicking. That's what it was going for. And Kyrmi held it to the perfect moment. Had some good auto attack resets and gets the first blood on the Susano, as well as pulling relics. Inbowned is going to go for a possible steal, not grab it, so Jarcorrr gets that buff. Maybe some return damage after the hammer. I don't think the chase will continue. But that's a great start for Kyrmi. This Susano pick, getting Transcendence online as quick as possible, means that you're going to be even more of a threat as the game continues.
And we've actually seen this a lot. A lot of Transcendence on junglers over the last year. That's not too outlandish. The fact that he's getting it first honestly blows me away, because that's what we've seen more often than not in the second slot, right? We've seen a lot of patience from these junglers. It slowed things down a little bit. That's not going to slow down the Kings. Go for a massive ult. Steal away a buff. Twig doesn't find much more than that, though, as he dives deep on the left-hand lane. But Trelly, it is now online for Kyrmi, picking up a lot for this Transcendence. It feels like it's going to be helpful having it a little earlier, even if you're losing out on maybe like CDR that you might have there otherwise.
Yeah, if you can get the Transcendence online early and you can get a first blood with it, that's pretty much all you could ever want. Genetics takes a lot of damage here. Typhoon, not quite enough to finish that kill, so not going to be sent out. Kyrmi wants to hold on to that one. Snoopy also providing some good damage, but that's a Hercules, and they are quite tanky, so Genetics doesn't have to worry too much. But if you can get it first, it's really the only reason you wouldn't start Transcendence is because the tier 1 is much worse than Mace early. And Transcendence is pretty expensive. You know, Jotun's is usually the go-to unless you need some anti-heal. But in this case, with that first blood again, Kyrmi's off to such a good start, it doesn't really matter. He can just go for full damage.
Well, Variety picks up Scary D, throws him back, forces the previous Fire Giant up into the asteroid, the meteor. Sends him flying back into lane. At least gets an ult for ult. Forcing small trades. Variety might be in a little trouble. Stays aggressive. Kyrmi goes forward, looks for the Typhoon, gets the knockup, and the ult is all you need. Twig went in to save him. Dash blocked, and Scary D walks up for the auto. And it's a 3-0 kill lead for the Gladiators.
Man, Twig did not have to die there. I mean, not even... There was no aggression towards this Mercury. He just stepped up, maybe thought he could stop some of that damage, gets stunned, and then immediately Kyrmi gets in play to block his dash, and after that, there's no way Mercury's getting out. 0-2 follows the Merc. I like the play. I mean, if he's able to grab Scary D before he's able to go up into the sky, maybe you CC chain there. It was good damage, too. I mean, hitting that stun is not easy. Variety changed the ult off it perfectly, just was not able. And then after that, stuck around a bit too long. Variety was not able to escape. And another kill. Going the way of the jungler. 2-0 for Kyrmi, and Scary D picks up one himself. It's going to be a while before looking for this Mercury to go for any more kills.
Yeah, it's going to be the hangout period.
Yep.
We just get to chill for a little while. I'm actually surprised and impressed. BigManTingz, it's not been a lot, and I bet if we look at the damage number charts, it's not going to be too crazy. Yeah, he's not even that high up. He's at the bottom.
Yep.
But the amount of damage, I mean, that feels like it was just the one potion that he hit a little earlier. He stacks it on the 2 people. It's those little things. I'm surprised with some of these late game carries where they can still hit pretty hard early on. It's just the safety of which they can hit. That damage is different. Twig, he had said maybe he's going to wait for a little bit. Doesn't have to wait this time. Good ult and good follow-up. Tings make sure the damage is there, and they put down Snoopy.
I lied. I said probably not. It's gonna be a while before CaptainTwig looks for more ganks. He's gonna keep sending it on cooldown. I mean, if he's got Sonic Boom, might as well try and pull some beads. Snoopy had beads there, and it didn't matter. They were able to chain their grab together. They had plenty of damage, and again, there was still a home sweet home. BigManTingz could have dove that even further if need be. I think that just goes to show Twig's not going to let some missed ultimates, some missed grabs, some missed gank opportunities slow him down. He's not even stacking rage yet, and he's consistently firing that ultimate off.
And we have been seeing a lot of crit focus, though, lately, specifically from the carries. Mercury has pretty much been going that way for years.
Yep.
I have to imagine that's still like what you foresee, right? A rage. Any changes? Like, is he also going to be picking up a bladed boomerang, or is that sitting off on the sideline, he's sticking more tried and true?
Yeah, from what we've seen, it's been serrated, Bloodforge, Demon Blade, Deathbringer,
Yeah.
but boomerang's kind of fun. It's not that good. you as a melee character, you pretty much just punch, get the boomerang punch. As a carry, you actually have to go and get it, but
Yeah.
as melee, it comes right back to you. Demon Blade is just better, and of course, Deathbringer is a staple on any Mercury that's going it. So I assume it's just going to be the typical rage.
The normal.
Yeah, get a little Bloodforge in there because that got buffed, and you're going to have fun. I didn't think Twig was going to have too much fun going 0-2, but he didn't stop, and he was able to pick up a kill there.
Yeah, keeps himself online, specifically helps out Tingz as well in a way that I think opens up the conversation for the mid lane and for the jungler again. We didn't have before. That pause comes to a stop. The game resumes. There we go. That's the phrase I was looking for. Genetics playing aggressively around this tier 2. I'm actually also surprised by this, which is that there hasn't been as much talk about the Hercules early on as I maybe expected. It probably because there's a Ram behind him. There might be a little more conversation to have about it. Genetics stunned out, now mezzed out, and here comes Kyrmi with a little extra damage push back into the wall of stun, and there's the boulder as well. Some immunity is going to help out. Kyrmi gets the kill, but it's going to cost him his life. As long as Twig can get that last auto, there it is. Roll forward from Jarcorrr, and he finds one more. It's 2-0 swing, 2-1 swing, snipes, 1 and 3 hit, but 2 all just off the mark, and that means Stuart, with barely any life left in him, is still able to back to base.
That's a great answer back, though. I mean, I think Genetics plays it about as well as you can. Punches Kyrmi, immune to the pull with his own boulder, but was not able to get out there. And, of course, CaptainTwig comes through and cleans up a few of those kills. A little bit off the mark with the snipes, but, hey, you hit 1 and 3. You missed the easier one of the, I guess, of the 3, not of the 1. The first one's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Most people hit the
Pretty
first
big.
one. It's that third one. It's trouble. CaptainTwig, once again, though, caught out at the green buff, but it looks like Genetics is going to have some great peel. Only the beads for now, and that Hercules is looking like too tanky to chase. That'll be all. Just losing Twig's beads.
Yeah, little work they need to do. Maybe stay safe for the next few minutes. If you're Twig a little under 3, that you have to be a little more cautious of. Maybe Jarcorrr needs to stay cautious of it now. Purple buff invade, led by Inbowned. Purple buff itself going to get picked up thanks to Genetics. Tingz is rotated over. They have the damage if they need it. There's the leap from Inbound. Unless some crazy play happens from Genetics here. I think that's going to be enough to get him out of there. I like his presence, though, right? Inbound's presence on the map so far has been to play nuisance. Like, he has been there to be irritating, to be maybe insulting, get in your face, cause a little bit of trouble. And so far it hasn't slowed the Kings down, but I like that he's pushing for it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the playstyle you kind of have to go for. As a Fafnir, you're either setting up with hammers, or you're just a buff bot. You're sitting back and saying, all right, go get him. You know Chorus, I'll
Here
be
you
back
go,
here.
man.
So I like the fact that he's up front, trying to steal buffs, trying to get aggressive, pull beads, that sort of thing. It will help out. And actually, Twig does go for the boomerang. He really, it is fun. You do get the buff for free as a melee character, and it looks like he values it as well. Keep your eyes on Kyrmi, though. He is making the rotation over.
Look, I can't tell you. I said that earlier, and maybe this makes me look like I'm clairvoyant. But in reality, that was just the first crit item that came to mind because I was looking up the changes for it earlier today. And we've seen a lot of it. We'll see if it ends up working out for Twig. Rare not to see a rage here, considering you have to stack it. Maybe watching him get something. No blink from Kyrmi. Not even the blink, the teleport from Kyrmi, and the Susano is enough to get him away there and avoid getting picked up. 4 members of the Kings on the prowl in the left side jungle. Staying alive there is actually a huge deal.
Yeah, Stuart getting a little poked out. Remember, he's essentially in an execute threshold if Yark's able to hit those snipes, and I'm guessing that's the play here. Try and get the members of the Gladiators duo lane low so they can't defend a possible gold pull. And then you just send over the Mercury, get some good crits, and you burn the objective. Hasn't been able to look for it, but Genetics has been sitting here wanting to go for the pull, and that is the call. Immediately started, but Kyrmi's here, Snoopy's here, Inbound's walking up, but it might be too little too late. It's just Inbound.
He's gonna see this. We've seen a lot of steals with the hammer, so you can't count him out. There's a stun, so the hammer's down. The Kings are gonna be able to secure that one. Snoopy makes it a little closer than maybe they would have liked to agree. But it is still a big pickup. Fury goes the way of the Kings, and look, Trelly, it's been a slow grind for them because of the way the Gladiators have been playing this. The Kings actually haven't been in the lead the way that we're used to. I mean, it's only a few hundred gold separating them right now, but they are still technically behind.
I think that they did get some good pressure for Scary D over on the right side of the map. Since then, haven't seen too much action from Variety. Not like you really can step up. It's just you're clearing waves and hoping Scary D doesn't get too much pressure. Now, though, the Pyromancer spawns in. Looks like they are going to set a beautiful pull in by Kyrmi, though.
Twig doing what he can, gets out of there, and is going to be fine now. Just walks away. Looks like that's going to be the play for the Kings. Not trying to find anything in retaliation. Scary D just around the corner. Blinks forward, stops the back, gets the kill! On top of that, the Gladiators making things happen. Well played, Scary D goes up into the air. And now it's just the question of can he get out of here. Inbound's a little low. It doesn't look like the Kings are going to commit to this one. So a nice little stop kill on the Kings from Scary D. Make sure that things can keep going in the Glad's favor.
I really thought that he was going to be able to stick that back. Unfortunate. I guess you could call it a lazy back. He was pretty far. I'm amazed Scary D was able to be in position there. Uses the blink, confirms that kill for himself, and puts Twig down 1 and 3. And it doesn't seem like Crit's going to be the next option either. It looks like right into the possible serrated edge, so Twig is going to be missing a lot of damage. The one thing I have found with the Boomerang, it's very fun, and getting the procs is nice, but it doesn't give you that extra crit chance, so if you're not getting the crits anyways, it almost feels like you don't have an item built until they start raining true. So it means the Mercury is going to be hitting kind of like a wet noodle for the time being. A little bit of a rotation over towards the right, though. Variety sees Kyrmi. Looks like his tower is going to be enough of a bastion of safety not to try and dive that one as a Susano.
Feels like, and maybe this is just because of the way it is in solo, we're still at that point where it's like, okay, how long for Variety until he's just too tanky to gank? And I think we were getting to that point, right? Not a lot of damage that he received on that one. And so maybe we'll see that in the near future where he's almost unstoppable with just 2. Scary D might be in a little trouble here, though. Genetics looking for the loop around. Good stop from Scary D and a good read. None of the CC connects from the Kings. And a very, very different style from game number 1. The Glads making sure things not only stay even, but stay interesting for us here 14 minutes in.
Yeah, I like the scrapping over on the left side of the map because there's no real fighting elsewhere. There's an attempt to Gabe at Scary D, but whenever he's got his ultimate, he's in no real danger. They don't have that much burst to kill him before he goes up into the sky, and the chase down does become more difficult. We've been talking about Genetics. Haven't seen too many of those clutch pulls. A lot of great CC, a lot of great peel for his team, but not so much initiation, probably because the Kings have been on the back foot more often than not. But the Gold Lane's entirely neutral, so it's not like they're afraid of fighting, right? I mean, CaptainTwig has been sending those ultimates out. Could be in mid as well. I mean, Snoopy, after that one gank, has become extremely cautious of this lane, staying very far back, has both relics available at all times. And that kind of makes Twig's job harder. You really want to look for dual lane ganks if possible, but that's about the only option he has because of how far back Snoopy's been playing in mid.
You know, I was about to jump into fight action because my brain told me to, and then slowly realized that it was the Cerberus and the Surtr. That one's not going to go too far. Level lead right now for Scary D, though. Maybe it's nice to lean on. Gets himself a Glad Shield, kind of matching what Variety picked up a little earlier. 2-0-2. 3-1 there for Kyrmi. So a lot of good kills so far for the Gladiators. Pretty right-hand heavy, though. The pressure from the Kings was on left earlier. That Fury is respawned. Might be a spot for them to go to. Home sweet home. Dropped by Tings. Not a lot that you can do with it. A little damage over towards Kyrmi. Scary D's rotated. They might not actually see him there. Standing just around the corner. Twig looking to get involved. Maybe to find Kyrmi. Grabs him. Forces the beads super early on. Gets the jungler on the Gladiators to play safe and gets them out of there.
Oni Fury is up. That's got to be what this is looking for. Genetics wants to try and find a pull if possible, forcing Scary D into the ult, but like I said, you're not shredding through that Surtr anytime soon with the builds that we've seen. So just going to be a great pull and the force onto the ultimate. I'm more surprised about the home sweet home as Pyromancer gets burned through, because look at Tingz' build. He's got Cloak. This is a tanky Baba. He was not in danger. That was I'm getting aggressive, and there was not much follow-up for it. You lose a little bit, but you do get some stacks, so maybe that was
That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, that Cloak is such a pain to stack up sometimes. Maybe he just wanted the damage.
If that's the case, he's going to be missing it for this ult, but hey,
Yeah,
it's almost coming back.
We'll see what he can do. Oni Fury started up by the Gladiators. 2/3 HP, inbounds incredibly low, but no one's able to get to him. Instead, Jarcorrr isolated, killed off by Kyrmi immediately. Good knock-up from the jungler as well. They're chasing him down. Variety picks up the jungler for the Glads, throws him back. Isn't able to have follow-up there. Variety goes down. The Gladiators walking away happy. Snoopy just trying to get out of this one. Genetics chases him down. Now low health bars. This could turn around. Kyrmi's going to back. Same thing for Scaredy. Stuart left alone. It is a Baba Yaga with barely any health, and Genetics with pure anger fueling him. But they're not able to get there in time. Stuart, at this point, is just getting bullied. Really, really back and forth fight. And ultimately, nobody gets the Fury.
I'm thinking that fight goes way differently if Jarcorrr gets in the air. He was very close. I heard the voice line, but gets bursted before he was able to go up. Inbound was in sniper range. Your Rama gets to live for a bit, maybe a big grouping. You have your ADC damage for that massive ultimate that Variety hit. He's able to pull back 3 or 2. One of them was a little, when you go off the wall on the Cerberus ult, sometimes you don't get placed right where you expected, so BMT wasn't able to hit everyone. But either way, some good damage. Kyrmi's missing beats for about 40 seconds, so I'm assuming the call for the Gladiators has been to stall. Most of the fights, I'm going to go ahead and say, all of them have been around Kyrmi. So whenever this Susano is here, that's when you want to get aggressive. If he doesn't have beads, if he can't get to the back line, it's hard to want to initiate. So that Pyro and the Oni Fury preceding it, probably not going to get looked at by the Gladiators, but look at the Kings. They're all on the left side of the map, whereas Stuart's here. This looks like a fire giant pull here for the Gladiators.
It should be pretty easy for him. Variety should spot this out. He's walking right around the wall. He's going to have the audio cue for this. Walks into the fire giant pit. Fury on the other side is being taken, but you can see the Kings responding to the call. Variety is the only one here to try and get anything done. Gladiator's going to get it. They get the kill as well. Genetics joins the fray a little late. Home Sweet Home was used earlier. So the only damage you have is standard damage, but what a great ult from Twig. No follow-up, though, and the health bars are just not dropping. The Gladiators not only walking out of there happy, they're getting kills right now. They're setting things up the way they need to. Tingz is just another one on the checklist. They take him down, they get the fire, and now they can start their push.
Beautiful play by the Gladiators. I mean, they had a ward on the Oni Fury. They knew exactly where the Kings would be. Stuart makes the clutch rotation over.
Oh, no.
And once again, Twig gets caught lazy backing. Probably thinks there's someone else coming, so he's going to run the whole way through. Not going to stop his back anytime soon. Yark did not make the rotation over. Probably smart. Knew it was too little too late. And it was a beautiful pull in. I mean, a double ult from CaptainTwig.
Oh, no.
But not enough damage. Here comes Yark, though, maybe. Trying to find an opportunity to fight. I'm thinking that's sketchy, though. There's some low health bars on your team, and it's basically Variety.
Had a lot of damage, a lot of low health bars, like you'd said. Not just for Kings, but also the Gladiators. Unfortunately for Jarcorrr, also walked right across a ward. That's actually where my oh no, I was like, oh, they're going to turn and burn this dude. He is not going to survive. And so maybe a pleasant surprise for him that he's not killed off in this case. 5 still strong with Fire Giant for the Gladiators, though, Trelly. That fight, it just goes so awry for them. And it's just, a good shot call and maybe a rare drop from the Kings.
And it seems like it, and a beautiful pull in.
Wow.
Jarcorrr is definitely in trouble. The beads comes through, but no Aegis. Only has a shell, and it looks like now Variety goes in to try and save him. He's going down too.
Yeah, not much you can do about this. No, the leap is actually good enough. Stun, hammer onto Genetics. He's pulled back into the fight. Just wants to stay alive, tries to get out, but cannot escape. Kyrmi gets the kill. It's 12-5. And the Gladiators continuing their onslaught. Knock down the tier 1 in mid. Knock down the tier 2 in mid. Start knocking on the Phoenix. They fall back. Home sweet home, getting some damage out there. It's a lot invested from the Kings for just a small defense. A few seconds left. But they're going to have to worry about this. Twig channeling his ult. Phoenix goes down. He finds 2. Again, no follow-up. Twig now deep in the jungle. Nothing you can do about it. The Gladiators get the Phoenix, fall back.
And that's all they really can do. Again, with the build that Twig is gone, he does nothing until that last item is finished. I mean, absolutely nothing. Bottom of the damage charts, as you would expect. The boomerang is a very greedy call. I think it's a snowbally item. If you get lucky, you can pop off with it. But I mean, he got 1 crit there, and that's sort of what the build entails. If you're not building crit with it, it's hard to go for. He's been connecting with those ultimates, as you said. The follow-up is difficult. And now, you lose a bird. CaptainTwig's farming for 20. He needs that Deathbringer to become a factor. Looks like BigManTingz is close to 20 as well. More of this damage is going to help out a ton. I think the CC, I think the front line of the Camelot Kings has been there. Variety's been hitting massive ults. Genex has been hitting massive pulls. It's just been the follow-up and the damage has not quite been there. And also, Yark hasn't been a part of the 2-2-5v5 towards this Fire Giant. He's only been on the left side of the map, so has not been able to get active at all with this Rama build. I think the Kings are just stalling for now. They're only down 3k. They can certainly fight back. They've got some power spikes. There's the Spear of the Magus. There's the Deathbringer. I think this next Fire Giant is going to be very eye-opening for both these teams.
Definitely something that the Kings are going to have to be present near. Good news for them is that they still have both towers in left, so that Phoenix is nowhere near in jeopardy. They don't have to worry about defending that. Much easier to deal with your mid or right lane. Maybe easier to deal with Twig. Only uses the dash. That's the blink down from Kyrmi. Fire Giant seems to be the call. Inbound goes for the ult. The team-wide Coerce is going to come in. And they're trying to burn this. Has the Frenzy as well if they really want to turn on the Jets. We'll see him go for it. Genetics leads the way. Scary D as well. Great ult once again from Twig, and now it feels like the team is there to help. A lot of low health bars, and it's Inbound mainly who's getting taken down, chunked out, killed off. It's all thanks to BigManTingz, but now Jarcorrr leads the way. The spearhead for his team, the front line for the Gladiators gone, and he's not stopping there. Kyrmi falls after Snoopy. Stuart, the only 2 zoned out, the only 2 still alive, and Twig is not letting that stay true. Stuart watches the team fall, and the Kings will get the FG.
Night and day difference. I mean, that is what I expected. I said it'd be very eye-opening once they got those power spikes. Twig actually did damage in the backline, and I think that was a big difference maker. The Gilded Gladiators have been relicking his ults, but they haven't been worried about his auto attacks. They've been saying, okay, we'll just kind of ignore the Mercury, we'll look for our kills. That was not possible this time around. That Deathbringer makes Mercury such a threat. And in this case, Variety had some good pulls. Genetic goes straight to the backline with Twig, make sure he's not alone. Inbound was the first on the chopping block. Scary D uses that ultimate defensively and then says, hey, I can help out, I can get some CC. Once he's down, Surtr's got no way out. I mean, there was plenty of CC to lock him down, and Yark goes massive for his team. The first team fight he was really a part of. I mean, that's what I was waiting for. And now, the Camelot Kings are able to push up mid. It looks like they wanted to make a beeline for Primal Fury so the Gilded Gladiators couldn't grab it, but a little bit too little too late. Stuart still does have plenty of damage along as well. He's 1-0 on this Ishtar. So now, you got to push through mid, though. Your bird is still down. The mid Phoenix will be respawning shortly, but it's at least one more wave of fire minions the Kings have to worry about.
Not too much stress, I think, in that regard. Though,
No.
right? Like, I mean, you're already pushed up halfway. Variety's pushing it a little further. And so you're going to be able to walk up towards the mid tier 2 if you would like. Definitely the left tier 2, which seems to be where Genetics, Tings, and Jarcorrr have their minds at. 3-2 split. It's just kind of determining who's the 3, who's the 2. Maybe looking for a little more of a fight. Sentry placed deep. The Kings trying to win the vision battle. Meanwhile, they are winning the map battle. Some good damage onto the tier 2. Twig's going to be looking for a fight soon.
Yep, and remember, Kyrmi does not have beats. He could be a great target. This Susano has no sort of defense build. It's all damage for now. Unless you catch him in the jungle, then he's got Protector of the jungle, but you're not fighting in the jungle at the moment. You're fighting underneath your tier 2s or underneath the Phoenix. But ever calculated are the Kings. There's a Pyromancer up they could go for. That tier 2. It's getting weak. Twigs is going to go make short work of that one.
I'm sure it's cathartic for him to see those
red numbers.
Yeah.
He's like, finally, man. Like, I built Boomerang and then nothing for 15 minutes, and then finally I get those big crits that I know Mercury can bring. That one more tier 2 to go for, and again, power spikes, still important. It looks like Jarcorrr is pretty close to finishing that Deathbringer, so might want to go back in before actually committing to a team fight. You still want to make sure you're getting every little aspect you can, every advantage you can. And all the relics on both teams are available, so you got to make sure you're watching your corners. Remember, Kyrmi has caught Twig out a few times around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that's still on his mind. Look out. There could be a Susano around any one of these rocks.
But because of what we just saw specifically at the Pyromancer and what we've seen Twig's build do, feels like he's now at the part where, oh, you're going to pull me in? Okay, cool, let's do this.
Oh,
like,
for
now
sure.
I can fight back if you're Twig. And I think that's maybe where his mind is at. Gladiators have to play this carefully. Left side tier 2 taken down during this FG. Mid tier 2 taken down during this FG. Right tier 2. So what it looks like the Kings are going for. No Phoenix play just yet. They've got one Runic Bomb available for them in their inventory. Same thing, Inbound's holding on to one right now as well. We'll see whether or not they can place it down. Maybe get something active here. No minion wave. I was going to ask how confident you're feeling in the fight. Genetics gets a pull. Unfortunately, doesn't get the push after. And that might be all she wrote. Fire Giant buff wears off. Again, Trelly, I was talking about this earlier, but 3 minutes. It's a long time for a buff period, but it is still something to get used to after how long the Fire Giant used to last. And I feel like it slowed the Kings down here a little.
I slowed them down. It took them a bit to get that tier 2 in mid, which means the tier 2 and right for now is going to stay fine. Kyrmi eats a stun through the wall, not going to beads. As it looks like trying to find a pull into Scary D. He's seen a bit of damage, but not too much. The boulder just to do an extra auto attack worth. The Camelot Kings, they don't want a Fire Giant. They want to fight here if possible.
Oh, Stuart gets chunked there, but not a lot of damage to go through. One. Oh, and then there's going to be, not only that, the Shell, the Aegis all get dropped. Scary D gets left out and hung out to dry. An easy kill for the Kings. It's 12-5 not too long ago. 5 unanswered kills for the Kings since then. And they're going to be able to back reset, start up an FG.
And they've got plenty of power spikes to go for after this, because there's no way the Gladiators step up. I mean, Kyrmi's nearby, but I don't think he's going to walk over and just throw a Typhoon. So Fire Giant goes down for absolute free. Twig's going to get access to Magi's. Soul Reaver's on the way. I mean, there's going to be some big power spikes to be had. And it looks like they're not even backing for those power spikes. They recognize, hey, the Gladiators aren't here. Scary D's down for 20. Run it down right side. They've got a chance to go for this Phoenix pretty much uncontested. It's just inbound.
Now with the minions here, it's going to make it easier. Genetics leads the way forward. There's going to be a knock-up on 2 from Kyrmi. Genetics takes a lot of damage in the process. That stops the wave, and that slows this down. This is not enhanced as far as the Fire Giant goes, so Genetics will sustain. Hercules is not going to have any trouble with that. But trying to get through the backdoor protections, that's going to be a different story. Variety leads the way this time around, eats a lot of damage. Twig really wants the Gladiators to just step forward, even slightly, so he can get his ult. Or maybe fall too far behind the Phoenix and he can find a kill. But Scary D, as you had mentioned, comes back. 4-2-7 for the Surtr. His first competitive game, he's been very prevalent. Unfortunately, the last couple of times, it's been just death. And right now, Kings just hovering around, waiting for the next wave. Home sweet home. Picked up. They're looking for the damage. Snoopy not getting hit by any of it. Instead, it's Genetics who gets melted down, trying to return the favor. The Kings looking for Inbound. But they're not going to be able to find him. Scary D falls back, picked up by Variety. Do they have the follow-through? Do they have the damage? No, the front line from the Kings just gone, and that's the surge the Gladiators needed. They chase it down. They're looking for BigManTingz, and they're going to find it a 3-man sweep. Jarcorrr can't even make it into the air. It's a minute without 4 members for the Kings.
I touched on power spike score. There was a lot of things that the Camelot Kings could have built before that fight, and something told them, we need to go now. Like, we cannot back up. There's no reason to do so. CaptainTwig feels so much more confident ulting of the backline if he has a Magi's bubble. I think that
for sure.
BigManTingz ulting to start the fight, if he's got a Soul Reaver, is going to poke out some of these tanks so they don't stand up. But now, it's Twig versus the world. Genetics is on the way, but this Phoenix is certainly getting looked at.
Yeah, the Phoenix should be a pretty easy thing to work through. Genetics is back. So Titan is the conversation now. If you're the Gladiators, they're going to walk forward. They want the damage. Do they have enough? Twig tries to go to the back, looking for the damage, immediately finds someone to Stuart, but they're looking at the Mercury. Makes it back to the fountain, going to heal up. Variety is back in the fray. They're getting the kills. They're getting what they need. That's 2. That's 3 that are down. It's a triple kill right now for Twig. He picks up a 4th, and it's chasing him down. 1 more. No, Variety! He takes it away. That's the second quadra of the day. The second penta stolen, but it doesn't matter. It's looking like a dub for the Kings. They're going to march it down mid and find this set.
I cannot believe, first of all, Genetics goes crazy there, actually resetting the Titan and pushing out Stuart, made sure that Snoopy was not able to end. I can't believe we had 2 stolen pentas on the first day of pro season. I mean, you know what?
And there's no excuse for that one. The first one I can understand. That one was malicious.
Yeah, that one was, I don't want to inflate Twig's ego. And now, I mean, this Titan should definitely drop. We got inbound in 8, and there's no way. This one is definitely going down.
Yeah, it's going to be maybe not a clean breeze, not a walk through the park by any means. The Gladiators made it a difficult fight. But they, unfortunately, do still fall here. Showcase, Trelly, in my eyes, a good presence in game number 2 that we didn't get to see. The Kings, though, just show up today, right? I mean, game number 1 was clean. We talked about that. Game 2, they showcased the resilience that we've talked about this team a lot and what they have, just being able to kind of withstand the storm. Even, I would call it some misplays in there. They made some mistakes
for sure
that they were able to make up for later.
Yep, I would say far from perfect, but definitely clean. I mean, game number 1, that's just textbook Kings. Game number 2, again, I'm a little concerned with why they didn't just back up. Maybe it was overconfidence. Maybe they thought nothing could go wrong. If Genetics doesn't hit one of those poles, if a little bit more damage is online, we're going to game number 3. Those are the kind of mistakes that you got to be able to make up for. And in this case, they definitely did. They're sitting at a 2-0 for a reason, but it was a bit sketchy.
Yeah, maybe more bumps in the road than they would have liked.
Yeah.
And I thought they were done after they started to take control. And then towards the end, the Gladiators still showing signs of life. It's a good set, but the Kings stand up 2-0. The desk is going to break it down from here.
Yeah, you know, I think the Kings themselves, they'll be happy they got the 2-0 win, but...
I'm not so sure. They're self-critical.
Right. They're happy they got the win. I imagine unhappy with the avenue that we took to get there, especially here in game number 2, takes all of a miracle-based defense, a quad from CaptainTwig, another stolen penta today. Then you're nearly going to a game 3. So I think the Kings will say, okay, we won, that's good, but this is a team that almost demands excellence of themselves and fell a bit short of that maybe in both of the games.
Yeah, not only of themselves, but they demand it of their enemies as well. If you want to beat the Kings, you got to come right. The Gladiators very nearly were able to do it, but just could not quite close it out. It was a great attempt at the end. I was actually sitting out there with Hurrywind, and he looks at me, deadpan, not a doubt in his eyes, and says, Glads can't end here. I was about to clown him so hard, but he had read the situation perfectly, I suppose. CaptainTwig lands every single shot he
needs to. Yeah, but that's how Hurrywind delivers every line ever.
He's deadpan.
Right.
He's a deadpan guy. But he was right once more.
Did he say it with a smirk on his face? Because that's important. If he says with a little side smirk.
A little crooked smile, a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, that's when you get Hurrywind figured out. That's the only key in there. There were moments in this game where the Gladiators felt completely in control. Kings were able to fight back in. I guess you can call it a bit of an overstay on right, where they got kind of run down one by one. The Kings did, lost everyone but CaptainTwig. And this is the moment.
Look at him, he's a hero.
Where the game gets saved.
He's putting his cape on.
Okay, how stolen was this really?
Are
we outside of the base? Because I don't hate the idea of, goodness, Stu could go back in, let's just kill him, right? Like, let's not worry about the one auto attack finding its way in.
ADCs are real dangerous right now, so maybe it was like a fight or flight response for the penta steal. It's I need to protect myself, so you throw out some damage. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Look, it was a high octane situation.
That's right.
On base
are all
defense.
Over the place.
Nobody's communicating. No, if Twig said give me the penta, then yeah, it's malicious. But if he's not saying that, he deserves the quad.
Well, deserve the win, if nothing else, after
Earned
a base
the win.
defense like that. Camelot Kings, they'll start off their conquest here in Season 10 of the SMITE Pro League with a 2-0 win over the Gilded Gladiators. And for the post-game interview, for the first time World champion, CaptainTwig, standing by with Gormizer.
That has a different ring to it. That it feels nice, right? To hear world champion at the front of your name. I have to imagine already.
Absolutely, it's amazing, but nothing's changed. I feel like this season. So.
Oh yeah, I like the humble nature of that, which actually lets us dive into what they were talking about right before that. You get a quadra at the very end. Last guy dies. It's Variety who gets it. Is that in your mind a stolen penta, or is it just getting the game done?
Absolutely not. For me, it was redemption. I had a stinky early game. I did not play well. I kept messing up combos and dropping kills and dying. So I think that's the redemption defense on the Titan. Otherwise, that would be a shocking loss.
I was thinking there was going to be more. I don't know why it's Twig. I was like maybe more rage, animosity towards Variety. How dare he? I do want to ask you about that game because you had mentioned it, like the early game maybe not going the way you wanted. Also, that right side Phoenix seems like things kind of fell apart for your team as they tried to fall back. What was going on in game 2 that you just couldn't quite get the grasp on?
It was just a terrible siege for us. I think we just needed to back off, spend our gold, and maybe split the siege because sieging into Merlin is. It's tricky, and Snoopy was just raining damage. So, yeah, it was definitely just a bad call, and we all admitted that.
Well, I got to talk about the grand scheme right now for the Kings, because towards the end of last year, pretty much since you picked up Jarcorrr, a lot of wins start pouring in. All the way towards the end of the season, you guys get the championship. You're starting off this season with a win. How far are you trying to push this?
I don't know. Take every game as it goes. As I said, nothing's really changed. I think we've all got
Just playing Smite.
We've still got more to prove. I feel like Energy won back-to-back, so it's not like what we've done is unprecedented.
Yeah.
We just want to play every game as it comes.
I'm surprised, actually, like a little bit by the mentality. You guys are coming back in, treating the season the way that it always is, and I think it's exciting for anybody at home to be able to watch. I mean, we got a good Kings brand of Smite in that game. I enjoyed watching the set. I know you maybe have some thoughts on game number 2, but of course, we'll see how the Kings continue throughout this weekend. Thanks, man, for your time.
Thank you.
We'll go back to the desk.
Win is a win is a win, right?
It's a win.
It is a win. And they got the win done here, and the Camelot Kings will move on to the semifinals of the SMITE Pro League Kickoff Tournament. Gore mentioned, he's surprised there was no animosity or rage. Well, animosity's not in the game anymore, and I'm not sure Twig built rage there in game 2, so clearly not going to be either of those two things. One more best of 3. I'm on it today, by the way.
I'll give you Cole's Law. That was good.
And that animosity and rage also should be given
pretty
to me.
mid.
I'm mid, so it's all good. Camelot Kings move themselves on to the semifinals of the SMITE Pro League Kickoff Tournament. Here in Season 10, they await their opponents. Highland Ravens, Oni Warriors, our final best of 3 of the day. I would say expected in 2 of the 3. Eldritch Hounds, again, I think an upset over the Styx Ferrymen. Atlantis Leviathans, Jade Dragons, coin toss, take your pick. But the Camelot Kings, though a bit messier than they would have enjoyed, able to get things done. And so one final match here on this best of 3 Friday myth between the Ravens and the Oni Warriors.
I'm excited for this matchup. I mean, I know the fans love it every single time Barracuda's on the screen, right? He's one of the fan favorites, and maybe high expectations around the Highland Ravens, which I feel like almost carries the spirit of the Olympus Bolts, the Ven-Barra combo together. I think probably has a lot of fans behind them now, adding Scream into the mix and Hurrywin as well, with Haddix holding it down in the soul lane. That could be a very explosive team. I feel like you've got one of the most impactful players in slot out of Scream, Haddix, of course, one of the most consistent soul laners, and Hurrywin, I think, just has a phenomenal mind for the game with the veteranship and mechanical prowess of Ven and Barracuda. I think that those two will slot in very well. Up against the Oni Warriors, which I would almost argue is like the rookie team of not rookies. Yeah. You got Pagon, you got Jake, guys who are relatively new to the league, still trying to find and make a name for themselves. SOT, Panatom, Netruid as well. I'm really excited for this one. I couldn't tell you how either of these squads would play.
Look, it's the mechanical squad, right? That Oni Warriors team, they're all incredibly talented. How do they mesh together? We're going to get some answers to that question and plenty of others as the Highland Ravens and the Oni Warriors end our Friday. Up next.